chapter 11. It is entitled God or the Ego and begins in the Blue Book as introduction. And in the original edition, this is chapter 10. In the CE edition, this is chapter 11. And it begins with section 1, which is called Your Place in God's Mind. That's what they titled it. Remember, these titles, chapter designations, titles, section titles, those were not dictated. Those were not given. Those were added in. So I think that's important to know, because you can get tossed. In other words, if I tell you we're going to talk about blue things today, and then I tell you about red and green things, you're still thinking we're talking about blue things. So I'm not saying that there's error in any of it. It's all good, because the Holy Spirit uses all of it. Jesus uses all of it. But don't let these titles set your mind in a certain direction or a limitation, and allow the Holy Spirit to speak as He speaks. All right, so introduction. Either God or the ego is insane. These are conflicting thought systems. One is sane, one is not. And there's no in between. There's not, are you sane? Well, I'm mostly sane. Well, doesn't that mean that you're somewhat insane? If you're somewhat insane, you're insane. If you will examine the evidence on both sides fairly, you will realize this must be true. Neither God nor the ego proposes a partial thought system. They are whole thought systems. Thought systems are whole. They are set on a foundation of thought. The entire construct of this house of thoughts is built upon a foundation. The foundation of these thought systems is really simple. One is a thought system of guilt. One is a thought system of innocence. And there's no in between. Are you guilty? Well, I'm kind of guilty. Well, if you're kind of guilty, you're guilty. Well, I'm kind of innocent. No, you're not. You can't be kind of innocent. You're either innocent or you're not. This is Holy Spirit reason. We have to stop allowing the mind to accept this gap, this middle ground. See, the gap is where we live. If you put these thought systems next to each other, if you examine the evidence, where do you examine this evidence? You examine it at the altar to God's Son. Bring your illusions to the altar. Gladly invite everybody to bring their illusions with them. Bring all your cray-cray stuff, all your nutty ideas. Bring them in. Because when we get the gap out of it and we put this stuff up on the altar, you're going to see, oh man, what am I lugging that around for? That's crazy. I ain't doing that. And I'm not going to have that thought anymore. That wasn't even a thought. I want reality. I want my reality. I want my sonship. When truth and illusion come together, illusion disappears. When darkness comes into light, it disappears. It becomes what it always was. Nothing. Only the light is real. Each, talking about these thought systems, is internally consistent, but they are diametrically opposed in all respects, so that partial allegiance is impossible. Partial allegiance is impossible. You can't hold two thought systems. You can think you are, but that's dissociation. You're in one or the other at every instant. That's why he says, at any instant, one of us is more sane than the other, because one's closer to one side of that thought system. He didn't say we're not sane, we're saner. Sanity can't see insanity, because there's no two of us to compare with one another. Who's better? Who's most macho? Who's most Corsian? No. You're either in a corrected thought or you're not. Remember, too, that their results are as different as their foundations, and they are fundamentally irreconcilable natures. Cannot be reconciled by vacillations between them. So bouncing back and forth isn't doing anything. They are irreconcilable, and their results, the end, the outcome of the thought, is sure. Nothing alive is fatherless, for life is creation. I could say it this way, and he says it in another place. Life is communication. What is creation? It's communication. It's communion. How does communion happen? By giving and receiving with increase in gratitude, by creating. That is life, because that's what you were created to be. That is happiness, because you were created to be happy. How? By being a father and a son, by creating. Therefore, your decision is always an answer to the question, who is my father? and you will be faithful to the Father you choose. So what are you really deciding here? We talked about decision a minute ago. What are you really deciding? You're deciding, who's my daddy? Who's my father? It's a powerful, powerful idea. And I'm not getting into genders or anything like that, but adopted children, at some point as they mature, they want to know who their daddy was. Who's my mom? Who's my father? Because the Father's really both. He is the source of all. And you'll be faithful to that Father. Like father, like son. That's a cliche, but it is true. I could say it backwards. Like son, like father. Because the Son is the expression of the Father. What did Jesus say in the Bible? I think I recall this as being when Peter answered the question, who am I? See, Jesus is saying, I've come to declare the Father, so who am I? I've been teaching you guys about Father. I've come to declare the Father, my Father. Of myself I can do nothing. Of my Father I do everything. Who do you say I am? Am I the Son of my Father that I have declared? Oh, you're the Son of the living God. Oh, great. Flesh and blood couldn't have shown you that. Ego can't show you that. That thought system you made couldn't have showed you that. You must be in my Father's thought system. Great. And then he comes back with a fearful thought and a withholding thought and a dangerous thought. And what did he say? You don't know what you're talking about. That thought's coming from your father, the devil. In other words, you went right back into this thought system. You're dealing with this other father now. In a split second, you vacillated from one to the other. He didn't say, that's kind of a little bit in error. Can you reach back over here? No. You went from the Father's thought to the devil thought, to the ego thought. What is the name of this chapter? God or the ego? Who is my Father? And who I choose, I will be faithful to. Yet what would you say to someone who believed this question really involves conflict? If you made the ego, how can the ego have made you? See, there's the question. If we made the ego, how can we think that this thing made us? In other words, if we made the idea of a devil, how could the devil be our father? It can't be. We made it. We made the ego. We have to take responsibility for this and quit getting this victimization from that which we made ourselves. We must take responsibility. The authority problem is still the only source of conflict because the ego was made out of the wish of God's Son to father Him. To father who? God, the Father. I don't want to be the effect. I want to take authority and be cause. I want to father you. This is my thought. I don't want to be your thought. I want you to be my thought. And isn't that what happens in every household of children as they come through their teen years? It's the authority issue. I'm tired of you guys telling me what to do. I'm not going to be your thought. You're going to be my thought. I'm in charge of this house. And if you don't believe it, watch how I act. I'll do what I want. Don't tell me I got to clean. Are you kidding me? Clean my room. Don't tell me what time to come home. And what happens? Conflict. He says this is still the only source of conflict. That's just an expression of the only source of conflict between the Son and the Father. And a wish, because you can't be the Father. And you can't make the Father. You can't create the Father. You're His thought. He's not yours. The ego, then, is nothing more than a delusional system in which you made your own Father. Make no mistake about this. It sounds insane when it is stated with perfect honesty, but the ego never looks on what it does with perfect honesty. Yet that is its insane premise, which is carefully hidden in the dark cornerstone of its thought system. And either the ego, which you made, is your Father, or its whole thought system will not stand. So he talks about this dark cornerstone. If you want an interesting study, well, contact me at voicefromtherealworld@yahoo.com, and I'll send you a document where I went through the course. The course talks about this dark cornerstone in depth. This dark cornerstone is hidden in the basement of your mind. And that basement door, you don't even want to know it's there. It's dark down there, and especially the closer you get to that corner, the more fearful it is because that's the cornerstone. It's a dark cornerstone. And there's something in there that I don't want to look at. It's a monster. Yeah, it is. It's your own goofy thought that you could be Father. but it's not real. There's nothing in it. But this whole thought system is built on it, and it's protected by fear. So he talks about the dark cornerstone. But if you look at this thing, the whole construct falls apart. It cannot stand. All right, so now we are in paragraph 3. In the original edition, this would be 10.2, which is entitled Projection versus Extension. You make by projection, but God creates by extension. This is one of the reasons that we teach from the Blue Book, from the FIP version, and we supplement with the other versions. I read all the other versions. I read every version you know about, and the Urtext. We know what's in there, and we supplement. But if you don't understand this, understanding the difference between creating and making, the difference between projection and extension, which he does not clarify in the original writing for some time, because he's having to deal with her thought, her and Bill's thought, I guess. You'll be so confused that you'll have to reread everything. Well, why have to reread everything? And here, we're in chapter 11, a third of the way or so through the course, and he's re-emphasizing this difference. You must understand this. Making and creating, projecting and extending. The cornerstone of God's creation is you, for his thought system is light. So what is light? It's his thought system. When I say I'm shining the light into your mind, what am I shining into your mind? His thought system, the true thought system. And what is it shining away? A false thought system. The one that has a cornerstone down in the darkness, because that's the only place it could be, where it can be hidden. Away from what? The correct thought system, the light. Remember the rays, capital R, that are there unseen. The more you approach the center of his thought system, the clearer the light becomes. The closer you come to the foundation of the ego's thought system, the darker and more obscure becomes the way. Just think of that basement. There's no light. Remember the old lights? Usually in the basements you'd have one bulb down there and it had a pull string, and you're walking in the dark, feeling around, looking for that string, trying to pull it. That's how you're walking through life, in this dark thought system. But I'm telling you, you're not even down there. You gave up a long time ago wanting to even go open the door and going down the stairs. I ain't going down there. It's dark down there. Scary. I don't know what's down there. Yet even the little spark in your mind is enough to lighten it. Bring this light fearlessly with you and bravely hold it up to the foundation of the ego's thought system. Look at the picture of the story. Take this little spark. We had the power go out the other night unexpectedly. Storm had already gone through a day or two before. I don't know what was going on, but the power goes out. Any little light, if I could get this little candle to just even a little part of it to light up, man, that's refreshing. I can negotiate now. So just take the spark. If you can't see the ray, take the spark. And let's get to this. We've got to face this. We've got to look at this with spirit. Be willing to judge it with perfect honesty. Judge what? The ego's thought system. Open the dark cornerstone of terror. Open it up, on which it rests, and bring it out into the light. There you will see that it rested on meaninglessness, and that everything of which you have been afraid was based on nothing. How can nothing have meaning? It can't. Nothingness cannot mean anything. You're trying to understand something that has no meaning. But this process must take place within the mind. My brother, you are part of God and part of me. When you have at last looked at the ego's foundation without shrinking, you will also have looked upon ours. I come to you from our Father to offer you everything again. You're looking at nothing. The spark, if you'll look at the spark, you'll realize the spark is everything. Because the spark is the ray, and the ray is the circle of golden light, and there is no circle. It's just the golden light of the wholeness and the oneness of God and heaven and the universe. Do not refuse it in order to keep a dark cornerstone hidden, for its protection will not save you. I give you the lamp, and I will go with you. So you don't have to go down here by yourself. I'm going with you. Jesus is going with you. The Holy Spirit's going with you. The Father's going with you. We're all going down here. You're not alone. You've never been alone. You'll realize that when we get this box open, this cornerstone, and you pull it out and compare it with the light. You will not take this journey alone. I will lead you to your true Father, who hath need of you as I have. Will you not answer the call of love with joy? See, if you're an advanced teacher of God, if you're a teacher of God, you can tell me how and when you went down here and looked at this thought system and recognized its nothingness. If you can't, you're still in denial. Don't tell me you're on the mountaintop if you can't tell me how you got there, and you're not interested in helping me get there myself. Don't tell me you'll get there one day. Time does not heal. One day is not going to do it. This is a now operation at the altar to the Son. Let's get it done.